So today I am going to be reviewing a website that was sent to me by one of the subscribers of the channel, and basically the email read very briefly, "Hey Kaz, I've been watching your videos. My website used to rank on Google. It started to slowly go down in rankings. What can I do to fix it?" So we're going to deep dive into this now. This specific website is a hair transplant website. It's called ukhairtransplantclinics.co.uk. A few things about this. The things I'm going to mention on this video can definitely be applied to any local or small business website. It's a no BS strategy. You might need a few tools, but apart from that, everyone can replicate this. So it doesn't matter if you're a plumber, it doesn't matter if you install solar panels, you'll definitely be able to follow along and rank your website higher. And just so you guys can actually see this website, as we can see here, 2023, it was probably at its all-time high, I would probably say. And it's just slowly dipped. If you take a look here, in April 2022, the traffic value for the website was $14,000. I know that it's a website in Manchester, but it's calculated in dollars. And right now it is at 1,500. So it's basically the worst position it's ever been. And we're going to basically deep dive into the reasons as to why that's happened. So this is the page that we're going to be looking at in particular. This is their Manchester Hair Loss Clinic page. Now, obviously, they want to try and rank for hair transplant in Manchester, right? That's the money-making keyword. That's what people will be actually searching for. So first of all, what we want to be doing is we want to evaluate the actual SERP. We want to make certain like what entities or what keywords we should actually have in our page title. First of all, the page title is the most important part. That's where, or one of the most important parts. The H1's also fairly important. But for example, right, if we take a look at their H1, they've got Manchester Hair Loss Clinic UK, right? Which is okay. I mean, I'm not going to say it's the best, but if we take a look at the guys that are ranking position 1, right? So they've got Manchester Hair Transplant Clinic, FUE hair restoration. There we go. Finally got it out. So one thing that's pretty important to have in the page title straight off the bat is clinic, right? So if we actually go through positions 1, we're obviously going to ignore all the sponsored here. So if we take a look, clinic, clinics, that's not got it. So that's one word that we should definitely have. FUE is fairly important as well. If we're just scanning through all of them, right? If we take a look here, so clinic, or sorry, FUE hair, just hair alone, hair transplant, FUE, right? So that's another keyword that we would probably want to actually have in our page title as well. So again, if you take a look, the H1 or the page title of this page should definitely be improved for this specific query, right? We then want to take a look and see what their actual website content's looking like. So if we take a look here, now I'm not going to lie, this isn't the best designed website. Like there's just a lot of images. Like this banner image could definitely be shrunk. And the reason why I'm saying that, just so you guys understand, is content above the fold. So when people land on your website, this is basically above the fold, right? Anything that they need to scroll down on, that's below the fold. So any content that is above the fold yields more weight in terms of how Google crawls your website. So if you've got, let's say, 500 words here on your website, it yields more weight than it being all the way down here, right? Which is primarily where a lot of their content is actually based. So if they were to just literally just shift this up, I'm certain that they're going to see a little bit of improvements across the actual website. And the reason for that, just so you guys understand, is Google, when it comes to crawl your website, it doesn't look at the pretty pictures. It doesn't look at the design of your website. It literally, all it does is it reads your code of your website. So if, say, for example, your main content is all the way down here, for example, it's going to take Google more time to read that content and understand what that page is about, what your services are, etc., etc. So just bear that in mind when it comes to website structure and website content. You want to try and follow, like, for example, this is a website that's ranking above them. They've got fairly decent content. Obviously, they're going to be getting outranked for numerous other reasons, but this is like a way better design than what we've actually got here, right? So just bear that in mind. Another thing as well, when it comes to like web design structure, is don't just look at your website on desktop. Google is a mobile first search engine now, I believe. If I quickly Google how many searches % is done on mobile versus desktop, that's a really really long query, but as you can see, the AI overviews come back saying 58% of searches is done on mobile devices, while the remaining 42 are conducted on desktop. Now, there's obviously going to be different factors into that. Like, for example, if you're going to be booking a flight, people tend to do that more so on desktop as opposed to mobile. This actual featured snippet says 64% on mobile, 35% on desktop. I'm going to probably say it's probably around 65 to 60% that's on mobile. If you were to look at every single search query on the actual on Google. So just bear that in mind when you are looking at your website. Try to look at it on mobile first, or if you've got a phone. Like, for example, on mobile, this website doesn't look too bad. On desktop, it actually looks worse on desktop than it does on mobile, which is the funny part, because usually it's the other way around. Like, this isn't too bad. If we actually take a look, if we scroll, like, zoom this up a little bit, go to maybe 50%, this isn't too bad of a design. But like what I said, the content could definitely be rewarded if it was a little bit higher up on the page. So now that we've got the website structure out the way and stuff like that, we'll take a look at the actual on-page SEO. Let's take a look at the content and see if it's actually sufficient enough to rank. Now, obviously, Google rewards content that is actually well written. It's for the user. I don't want to bore you too much on that, but if we take a look at, for example, let's take a look at these guys, right? Also, another thing to bear in mind when you're reviewing your website, like, the reason why I didn't click on positions 1 and 2 is because these are all home pages, right? So it's very unfair of me to evaluate a website against a home page. Like, we've got what's called an inner page, so this is like a page. It's not the home page of this website. It's like a service page, or it's a service landing page, whatever you want to call it, right? But it's very unfair of me to evaluate this against the homepage site, because naturally homepage of websites have more links going through to them. So just always bear that in mind, right? You always want to compare apples to apples. But if we take a look at this, right, we have got, again, the content's not amazing, I'm not going to lie, mainly because there could definitely be certain things actually added to, actually, do you know what? I take that back. The content's fairly well written on this. Like, they've got, for example, FAQs, so like, how much does a hair transplant in Manchester cost? Why don't we charge by the graft? Can I get hair transplant on finance? Will I need to book a week off of work? When it comes to like FAQs of pages, especially if you're doing a service-based page, try to think of questions to include within your content that your users or your clients might have prior to purchasing your product or your service. Like, for example, if I'm selling black hoodies, right? a question that people might have for specific black hoodies is, can I wash it in the washing machine, for example, right? So always just think of those questions. Now, that was a little bit of a bad example, but let's say, for example, if I've got a solar panel website, a question that people might have is, can I buy your solar panels on finance? And then obviously you can answer that and you say, yes, we've got a trusted finance provider. Go to Casra Finance and they can sort you out with the finance. Certain things like that. Or, for example, how many solar panels do I need, right? So just always bear that in mind. Now, is this content 10 out of 10? Definitely not. No content is 10 out of 10. Like there's always going to be certain things that I can pinpoint and stuff like that. But let's take a look at the content on our website, or the website that we're reviewing, right? So if we take a look, the hair transplant procedure, factors affecting hair transplant cost in Manchester. So the questions aren't really direct. Like if we take a look, if we were to compare these, right, how much does a hair transplant in Manchester cost? They have specifically asked the question of how much does the hair transplant cost in Manchester, right? Which is a very valid question. People would be searching that, especially if they are in Manchester. But this is, I don't know if this is AI or if potentially they didn't actually evaluate the content prior to uploading it, but factors affecting hair transplant cost in Manchester. Nobody's really going to be searching that. Now, a little bit of a tip, and then we're going to look at like SEO scores and stuff like that in a second. But one thing that you can also do is search your keyword, or search a variety of versions of your keyword. So like, obviously we've got hair transplant Manchester, but we could do hair transplant clinic Manchester as well, right? If you scroll down past all the sponsored, because we're not going to be looking at those, but if you've got the people also ask, this is always a good indication of what questions to actually include on that page. So how much does hair transplant cost in Manchester, right? That is basically word for word exactly what these guys actually have on the page. Actually, yeah. So you can definitely look at these types of questions and actually have them. So like, how much is 3,000 hair grafts in the UK? How much is a hair transplant for a man in the UK? Now, one thing to bear in mind when it comes to the people also ask is there's going to be certain questions that's going to be very similar. So if you just include the one question, like how much is how much is 3,000 hair grafts in the UK, and how much do 3,000 hair grafts cost? That doesn't mean you need to have two questions on your page for that. You can just have the one, and it's going to actually be sufficient. Now, one thing that I always like to do is take a look at the SEO score of an actual page. I'm just going to use phrase.io. This basically evaluates our content. So if I actually just go into new document here, click on SEO, and if we do hair transplant Manchester, we'll obviously do United Kingdom and create document, right? So what this tool basically does is it will go out to all of the ranking websites, and it will basically give us a score of where we should actually be aiming for. So if I click on start here, it's basically going through to all of these different pages, and it's going to tell us like what keywords we should actually have in our content, which type of sentences we should have, which questions we should actually have. It basically gives us a brief of what we should actually include in our content. So if you've potentially just written content for the sake of writing content, I highly recommend just running your content through this. You can just further optimize it more so for the search engines, just that little bit more. So we'll let that do its thing. A few other things as well that you can obviously take a look at when it comes to, like, for example, if you're positioned 35 like these guys are, a few other things that you can also look at, which I'll probably do a separate video on, is you can look at technical SEO, so using tools like Sitebulb, using tools like Screaming Frog, just making certain that like your website's health is just basically, from a crawlability point of view, Google's actually able to access your pages and index those pages. Now that's probably like a little bit more advanced, but for this video we're just going to be looking at like the on-page SEO reasons, any links, so off-page SEO, and also the content. So if we take a look here, right, these are the questions that it's also recommending us to actually include. Now, like what I said before, if you've got this on within your content, you don't need to actually have, like, if you've got how much is 3,000 hair grafts in the UK, you don't need to have how much do 3,000 hair grafts cost, because it's the same type of query, it's the same intent. Now, what I like to do with this is I'm just going to copy these guys' content. So this is the website that is position number 3, I believe. And we just want to see what these guys score in comparison to our content, right? So I'll just copy all their content. It's not going to be 100% perfect, but very quickly we will just go through all of this content here. We'll just paste it in. So as you can see, this is a SEO score of 52. Now, is it perfect like what I mentioned before? No, it could definitely be improved. But it's enough to get them to rank. Like, for example, when we're looking at scores, especially when it comes to SEO, right, don't just think, I need to get this to 100, because what this tool is actually telling you is the average for the top 10 or the top 15 results is actually 32. So this is actually well above average. But there's also other factors as well. Like, for example, even if you were to score 100% on this, you might still not rank because your link building might be lacking, which we're going to go into further in the video. But just remember that, right? So now, if we take a look at the content on our website, or the website that we're reviewing, let's just, what we'll do is we'll just copy all of this. It's obviously not going to give us the 100% result, but it's going to give us a near enough result, right? So if we just Control A, and if we just delete that, if we do empty page. So as you can see, again, we're actually above average, believe it or not. But we are, that's actually interesting. So another thing to bear in mind as well is this tool will tell you how many times you should actually mention specific keywords within your content. This page, believe it or not, is actually over-optimized for the keyword hair transplant. It's telling us that we should actually include it once. We've actually included it 32 times. So again, you can also over-optimize your content as well. So just bear that in mind. Let's take a look at, so this has also got like an info gain section as well. So you can do like certain questions, for example. So how much does a hair transplant cost? Which hair loss treatment is right for me? All very valid questions as well. And again, this is going through all the questions that are seen on other ranking websites as well. So this is always a fairly decent start. Especially if you're not ranking anywhere. So let's take a look at their backlinks, because again, that's fairly important to look at. So the links for this page, we don't have any links at all going through to this page. But let's take a look at the keyword and see what we're actually facing. Do we actually need any links? So Manchester hair transplant. I'm going to assume that's the seed keyword. Yes, it is hair transplant Manchester, so we'll go with that one. And if we take a look here, the top 10 results, position number 1 has 111, position number 2 has 799, position number 3 has 25, position number 4 has 390, position number 5 has 7, position number 6 has 255, position number 8 has 16, and position number 5 has 5 backlinks. Now again, if you've got stronger content, if you have further optimized your content, you're going to need way less links. Also, another thing as well to bear in mind is it's also important to see like your website structure. So have these guys internal links from their homepage to their Manchester hair transplant page? I'm going to assume not. So doing certain things throughout your website and making certain that your local landing pages, for example, have the correct amount of internal links, making certain that your content is actually optimized and it's not over optimized, it's also not under optimized as well. That's another factor to bear in mind. Making certain that you've got the people also ask questions within your content. Just doing all of those things, you're probably not going to need 799 backlinks. I could guarantee that the reason why these guys have needed so many links is because they're lacking in other areas throughout their website. They might not have a strong enough blog section on their website, for example. Another thing as well that we've not touched on is making certain that you're actually funneling your content, which I do actually have a diagram on, which I will show you guys. So cadredash.com, if you go to, is it, I believe it's tools, SEO article builder, no, how to find content, is it this one? Bear with me for 1 second, I believe it's this. Here it is. So this is the diagram that I've got, right? So if you think of the stages that your customer base is at and where they are actually when they're searching for certain things, right? So not everybody is, this is for like a bakery store, right? Not everybody is choosing the right stand mixer, right? Some people might be searching for best cake baking tools, for example. Some other people might be searching for just easy cake recipes for beginners, right? What you want to be doing is making certain that your website and your blog content on your website is covering all the phases. Like, for example, if I was going for a hair transplant, right, a question that I will naturally have is, does hair transplant hurt? And again, if you're not seen as a knowledge base in Google's eyes, it's very hard for Google to trust your website and rank your website higher. Like, for example, if I search, does a hair transplant hurt? This is a completely different blog article that people have actually done, like, I don't know, 5,000 word or 1,000 word articles on, right? So if you can actually cover all of that, and maybe there's certain areas of the actual hair where it hurts less, for example, right? You can actually mention all of that within your blog content. That's going to essentially give you more power, more weight in terms of Google. So when Google's actually crawling your website and when it sees, okay, these guys have got 600, or maybe not 600, but these guys have got 50 blog articles to do with hair transplant surgery, you're actually just seen as more of a trustworthy source at that point as well. It's very, very hard nowadays to rank a very small website with not that much blog content. So always just bear that in mind when it comes to ranking your website. That has been the video breakdown. I feel like I've covered a lot of ground, but that's been it. If you guys want more videos like this, obviously leave a comment down below. Maybe you have a website that you want me to analyze, but that's been the video. And also, if you guys are in Manchester, or if you guys are in the UK, 27th and 28th of June 2025, I am hosting a SEO conference. Make certain to grab your tickets. The website is themasterminders.com. The link will be in the description. And thank you for watching.